What's up everyone? In a night of Brittany rapping, Tom Green talking to many different Big Brother fans, and Frenchie leaving the Big Brother exit doors, a brand new head of household was crowned in the shape of Xavier. But who is he going to target this week? We have lots and lots to talk about, guys, so welcome to your live feed update. So there you have it, folks. Frenchie has indeed left the Big Brother house. Let me know your thoughts on his eviction below in the comments section, and also let me know your thoughts of Xavier being crowned the brand new head of household. Okay folks, let's kick things off talking about the Head of Household competition. So if y'all didn't see, go check out the Head of Household competition last night again, rewatch it, and look at Derek X and Hannah. As soon as they found out Brent was basically out of the competition, and then they only had to wait for Whitney to go, Whitney was then eliminated from the competition, and Derek X and Hannah knew they didn't need to win Head of Household at this point because they could throw it, thus putting... Because if they obviously won the competition, their whole team would be safe, thus nobody could target Brent and Whitney, throwing a monkey wrench in the works for the week. So as soon as Brent and Whitney were off the stand, they just went to throw it, and I didn't even realise that. I knew they were going to throw it because I'd obviously watched the feeds beforehand, but I didn't realise what they'd done. And as soon as Julie said the correct answer is, it was either fault, whatever the opposite one was, they were like pointing at the thing, going yes and cheering and giving their thumbs up. Go check that out, guys, because it was a great watch. They both did it in sync, and it was fantastic. It wasn't even planned that they did it in sync because they were talking about it afterwards, saying that one another did it, and they were like, oh, I did it too. But definitely a great moment to watch there, guys. But there you go. Just so if you didn't know, they did indeed throw that Head of Household competition because Brent is public enemy #1 this week, and he doesn't even realise it. Now, after the competition, Derek X and Hannah were comparing notes, and Derek X, because he's not a Big Brother viewer, he's not somebody who's religiously watched the show over the years, he asked Hannah, at what point in the game do people start creating final twos and final threes? And Hannah was like, Derek X, I think you're a couple of weeks behind on that because people have started doing that already. And he had said to Hannah that Brent had came to him yesterday and pitched the idea of a final two. Nothing got finalised. It was kind of a bit wishy-washy. Hannah basically finished the conversation with Brent has one of the biggest egos she's ever seen in her entire life. And do you know what? I think I, as a viewer, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys as well, would second that comment. Now, Tiffany was doing a quick game update and talking to the camera. I loved it. It gave me major Danielle Reyes vibes. Just the calculated strategy that she puts into this game is just remarkable and incredible to watch. And she was basically talking to the camera and saying, I hope my people out there, Janelle, Dan, Bailey and Davon, just naming a bunch of legendary house guests from over the years and saying I hope they're giving me good vibes and stuff like that. I've off the top of my head, I have seen Dan and Janelle actually endorse Tiffany on Twitter, so she's on her way there, and everybody loves Tiffany. I haven't really seen that many people who don't like Tiffany. She's just fantastic. But she was talking about how she basically wanted to pitch Kyland a final two deal. She wants to sort of speak to him over the next couple of days and talk to him about a final two. Obviously, she is extremely tight with Claire, but this is Tiffany. She obviously wants to get to the end, and she's not necessarily looking to go to the final two with Kyland. She's more just looking for a path to the final two, and if a final two plan with Kyland helps that, it's gonna help her. She hasn't necessarily confirmed who she is. Because she hasn't got a ride or die. You'd assume it was Claire since she hangs around with her a lot, but you can never assume anything in the Big Brother house. Tiffany seems like the sort of player who will do what it takes to get to the end, and for that I respect her as much as I think Claire is fantastic. But yeah, she was sort of talking about that and sort of explaining her gameplay there to the camera, and she had talked to Xavier at one point. She has this brilliant way of... She doesn't get in someone's face, and she doesn't interject into the conversation. She doesn't say, hey, do you want to go sit in this room? She just happens to, be, I don't know, hanging some clothes up in the closet, or doing the dishes, or brushing her teeth, or, just doing something where she happens to be in the same room as them, conveniently. She does it perfectly, and then she just sort of engages in that conversation of, how are you feeling? Congratulations, and then they start to open up to her. She doesn't have to ask the questions. She just says a statement, and then they start saying stuff, because Tiffany comes across extremely trustworthy, and it's like seeing a master at work. It's just amazing. But Xavier basically had told her that the best thing to do would be to go for Brent this week, and now while I think a majority of the house will be pushing for Brent and Whitney, for some weird reason I think Xavier is kind of tight with Whitney. I don't know if he maybe wants a showmans with her. They're not massively tight, but I think he's quite close with her, so I think he's a bit hesitant in putting Whitney up on the block. But if there's enough house pressure, or if Tiffany can explain that house pressure to Xavier, then he's going to be more willing to put Whitney on the block, I would imagine, because I think in his head right now the sets of nominees we're going to be looking at is either, with Brent as the target for definite, but Brent and Whitney, or Brent and Brittany, which I guess Brittany's going to become designated BB23 pawn of the season. But it can backfire. If Brent comes off the block, I guess... I mean, we don't even know if he's going to put Whitney up if Brent comes off, because the fact that he didn't put her up in the first place says a lot. If that does turn out to be the case, it's just very, very risky, and sometimes you can't do that in Big Brother. Sometimes you just got to go Brent and Whitney, get on the block, just to pin that target on them as that pair. And then even if one of them does come down, because that pair target will be so big because people have bigged it up from them being on the block, one of them will head out the door, more likely anyway. There's a lot to take into account this week, but I think the best thing for Xavier to do is to put Brent and Whitney on the block together. There was talk a bit later on in the evening about a potential backdooring of Brent, which Xavier said he'd be open to, but there wasn't an awful lot of talk coming from Xavier's end because he kind of wanted to just have a chill night and ease in as the head of household. Xavier was praising Kyland on how he ran his head of household reign, saying that he really sort of respected the fact he did all these meetings. So Xavier will be taking a leaf out of Kyland's book and sort of putting the meetings into his head of household reign as well. He will put that to use in today, actually. Well, last night he was saying it's going to be tomorrow, but today, before the wildcard competition does take place, he's going to have a team meeting with each team one by one, alphabetically. So first, obviously, will be Aces, followed by the Jokers, and then the Queens. Now, this pleased me very much because with the Queens being last, Tiffany can work her magic more than anybody in that house. I would say she is the most persuasive and the most quite manipulative. Gets thrown around in about, it depends how you take it, because in the real world, manipulative is not a good thing. In Big Brother, we clap for manipulative, so I'm going to say it's a good thing in the Big Brother house. Tiffany can manipulate. Xavier is the last sort of thought in his head. Even though Frenchie was the sort of person who, the last person he'd hear, he'd go off. I would say most people in general... See, Frenchie heard it and rolled with it immediately, whereas like most people, I would say, would not necessarily roll with it as fast as Frenchie, but I would say the last word often has the biggest impact. So with Tiffany going last, with the help of Claire on his side, and also Kyland, who he's praised for the head of household last week, that is going to be a power group that is going to be getting in his head last in regards to what they want Xavier to do or anything plan wise. So that pleased me a lot to know that the Queens are going last, because I do like everyone on the Queens team. I think they're a force to be reckoned with, and it's very beneficial to them that they're going last in the meetings rota. But yeah, it's going to be very exciting to see how those meetings turn out. And then obviously on wildcard day, it is the wildcards and then the noms. So he's going to do a meeting obviously before wildcards, and then another set of meetings alphabetically between the after the wildcard comp winner is revealed, and between the nominations. Update on the Cookout Alliance now, and Derek F, Kyland and Xavier have formed an alliance. It wasn't necessarily to stem off the Cookout, but it was more just they formed a three. I would treat that as the core within the Cookout. Although, like I said, it wasn't formed officially as that, but when you've got three people who form an alliance that are already in an alliance with a larger group of people, I would usually treat that as a core in the Big Brother house. That's going to be very beneficial to them if they stick to it. Brent spoke to Alyssa saying that he was lip reading her, and there was all this talk of he wanted a final two with her. He was really grasping at straws. Just classic Brent behaviour in the Big Brother house. And then Alyssa basically didn't commit to that final two. She literally went on to tell a good chunk of the house afterwards. She obviously went to tell Christian, and I think she mentioned it to Whitney as well. She was just basically saying everything that Brent was doing. Brent is quickly becoming public enemy number one in this house. And to be honest, he's only got himself to blame for the way that he goes on and behaves in the house, in my opinion. I try to be as positive as I can on this channel, but sometimes people just can be so blatantly bad at the game, or just aren't treating other people with respect necessarily in the house. And I don't have a lot of time for people who think that they're on Love Island rather than Big Brother, so sometimes I have to just say that. But I think it only makes sense that Brent is a target this week. He's not necessarily a target like a Frenchie. Like Frenchie, you can... and I still stand by this. I still think Frenchie could have been kept around, because whilst he's a loose cannon, he's always going to be a target whilst you're not. I can't necessarily say the same about Brent, because Brent, we've seen him be quite... he can worm his way in socially, and he might be able to make a few dents. And Jackson Mickey, let's talk about him from Big Brother 21. He was a sort of alpha, and he managed to win a lot of comps and stormed his way to the end. Brent could do exactly the same with a little bit of power, because with comps, with comp wins obviously comes power. People get attracted to you, then you've got your numbers, then before you know it, you're on finale night. So there's a difference between Frenchie and Brent, and I've got to say Brent's definitely only got himself to blame for being the target this week. Derek X and Carlin discussed that Brittany and Whitney would be the best option for nominations, with Brent as the backdoor plan. That was the backdoor sort of stuff I was talking about. And Xavier has said he's kind of open to the plan, but he wants to respect Brent enough, or he does respect Brent enough to give him a shot to play in the veto. To me, that's a bad way of saying that you don't want as much blood on your hands of doing the backdoor thing. Xavier needs to basically realise, again, I like the guy, he seems like a great guy, but he needs to realise I'm playing Big Brother and a backdoor is probably what I've got to do this week. Or, I mean, listen, both are going to work, but I just don't like the thought of, if you're going to do the just initial noms and take someone out, you need to put Brent and Whitney up, not Brent and Brittany. But if you're going to do a backdoor, that's fair to put Brittany up on the block because she's obviously the pawn. And then that's a much more better plan if you're obviously going to take Brittany down and have Brent sitting next to Whitney at the end of the week. But if you're going to say that, oh, I've got too much respect for Brent to not let him play in the veto, you need to make sure that you're putting Whitney next to him up on the block to make sure that at least one of them will be sat there on eviction night. That is all of your live feed updates for today, folks. I thoroughly hope you all enjoyed watching. Please let me know your thoughts on Xavier as the brand new head of household and who you would like to see evicted this week. I guess you can say who you want nominated first, then veto, all the sort of stuff that goes into a Big Brother week, guys. There's so much to talk about. And also, massive shout out to Tom Green for gracing us with his incredible presence on the episode last night. It was fantastic to see him back on the show. He was my personal favourite on Celebrity Big Brother Season 2. An overall legend, Mr. Tom Green. So fantastic to see him. So a little bit of praise for him there. But guys, let me know any of your thoughts on this week on Big Brother, even last week, just any thoughts on Big Brother in general in the comment section below, guys. But again, thank you so much for watching, guys, as I always say, because I do genuinely mean it. I'm really genuinely appreciative and grateful for every single last one of you guys. But make sure that you're all staying safe, staying positive and staying healthy out there, and be kind to one another, guys. But in the meantime, please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Do all of that stuff. But until your next live feed update, I've been your host, Tom Vasey. Good night.